Yeah, in terms of food, in the early days, for instance, if we had a work day at one of the buildings, and there were a lot of people turned out, well, some people made a kitchen in one of the squats. They cleared out all the walls on the ground floor and opened up to and made a giant kitchen, so that everybody in the various buildings who was working all day and sucking up a lot of dust and so on, and generally speaking, if you're working 24/7 on squatting, you didn't work for money.
No.
So nobody had any money. The money that you had went into materials and beams and plaster and all the stuff you needed to renovate. So we'd go to one of the squats where people who had organized the kitchen.
Right.
And everybody would eat there.
Right.
And the food was mostly dumpster dived, although that is a kind of a euphemism. Some of it was literally gotten out of a dumpster, but
right.
a lot of it was just gotten from Zabar's and some of these other places that you go at night, and they'd give you all the leftover stuff. So we ate like kings for the most part.
Right.
In those during that period, I remember, and it was great because at the end of the day, you know, you work, you're tired, and so on. We'd all gather. Usually there was a big kitchen on 13th Street,
right,
and we'd have big meals there, and you know, people would play. This was when Michelle Schacht was still part of the scene. She was playing, and you know, it was just a good scene.
And people built things. I mean, and built a community. I mean, you're Catholic. I mean, there's the idea of communion, but there's the idea of building a community.
Well, the squatter community was basically like a lot of communities are built in concrete terms. It's hard to build a community in the abstract.
Yeah.
But when you're working as a squatter, and by necessity you need to work together, and you choose to work together, you build a community. You know, it's a cliche that when people work together, it builds like strong relate, but it's really true.
Yeah.
You spend a lot of time in cold winter in buildings together, and you're working together to make houses for each other. That's what it's about, but it's rooted in practical activity, not in an abstract, let's make a community for the hell of it, or even like we're politically connected, because the squatter movement, people generally like to assign a monolithic ideology. They're all anarchists, or they're all this, or they're all that. It's totally untrue. It's just a real diversity. It's in the work.
Yeah.
It's you know, the ideology. That's the thing about squatting. That's the reason I was drawn to it, is that it's eminently practical.
Yeah.
It's very radical. It's very political. You're a criminal and all this other good stuff. But at the same time, the main virtue for me was its practicality. One of the places we used to come to a lot was Charas here, which was a community center. It was a school, PS 64 I think it is, that was occupied by primarily forces associated with the Young Lords, and to some extent the Black Panthers. The Panthers had actually occupied a space in the Cristadora, which is now a high-rise condo, but they had occupied, the Panthers were working there and Young Lords working here. Chino Garcia, Armando Perez, and other people took this building and they turned it into a center which housed daycare centers and theater groups and artist workspaces and political meeting spaces. Had lots of meetings here, anti-war groups, and it was just a whole different collection. The kind of space, what I guess in Europe referred to as social centers.
Yeah.
Places that housed alternative politics within the walls, and they were kind of germinate and create those kinds of movements. It was shut down now about 15 years ago, I think, maybe even more than that. Yeah. As a result of the development frenzy that has overtaken the neighborhood, the profiteering on the part of real estate. And it's now still in court, so we're hopeful that maybe someday we'll actually get back in there and recreate the kind of community center that the community needs. That's the take on? Oh, there she is.
Were you involved in the